Welcome to the weekly Stewards wrap video with myself, Cody Winnell, and HRV Chairman of Stewards, Nick Murray. Nick, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Cody.
No worries. We've had plenty of questions come through this week on our askthestewards@hrv.org.au email account. So thanks very much for sending those in, viewers, and make sure you keep them coming. Some of the questions that don't get to air for the video cast, those will get replied to by a member of the Stewards panel, so long as you put your name and phone number on that considered question. So keep them coming. askthestewards@hrv.org.au. We really appreciate the questions. Nick, item one this week that we're going to have a look at is Anthony Butt. He copped a three-week suspension for an incident racing into the first turn in the 4 and 5-year-old championship at Melton on Saturday night. Can you take us through what Anthony did to sort of incur the stewards' wrath, Nick, as I'll roll the footage?
Yeah, sure, Cody. So Anthony Butt, driver of Stunning Grin in race 8 at Melton on Saturday night, incurred a 3-week suspension under a 163.10 for causing interference. The stewards consider that Mr Butt failed to make sufficient effort to prevent Stunning Grin from shifting into a 3-wide position, which resulted in Presidential Secret being tightened for racing room, shifting in, which caused interference to Pepe Bromack. Pepe Bromack galloped as a result of that interference.
And we saw Pepe Bromack just on that footage a little bit further back there, having to duck down onto the inside of the pegs, obviously galloping. And then Chris Elford, the driver, corrects it, comes back on, and you see Adam Cartwright, I think it is, there, just shying out a little bit. Anything there?
So Mr Alford has obviously got out of the way of other drivers by initially shifting inside the marker pegs so as to avoid any interference. Mr Alford's obligation thereafter to regain a position in the true running line at the first opportunity. Once Mr Alford does shift outwards back into the course proper, he does so clear of other runners. It's evident the trailing runners are in a position 1 wide. At that time, there's slight inconvenience caused to Adam Cartwright. However, stewards didn't consider that Mr Alford's decision to come out at that point warranted any action against him.
Sure thing, and we'll that sort of leads us to another question here, which has come through from a viewer in Patrick, who asks, given that drivers are generally looking to slot in from outside draws, are drivers who find themselves on the pegs or inside obligated not to shift into the running line unless it is clear to do so? So I'm not sure if Patrick was citing a specific example there or if that's a more general question, Nick.
Yep. So obviously drivers are trying to obtain positions shortly after the start, whether it be from wide barrier draws or from inside draws. The obligation on drivers shifting wider from a position closest to the marker peg line is to do so to ensure they're clear of other runners and to not cause any interference to those horses if shifting wider, and not place that horse any further wider on the track than they otherwise would be. Likewise for horses and drivers shifting inwards, they have to ensure that they're sufficiently clear to obtain a position.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, on to the next item that we'll look at, and this involved another race, Nick, on Saturday night, and there was a query, I note, placed on Hayden Gray's drive, a young driver, Hayden Gray, aboard Changing Code. That horse sat well back in the run, last in fact, and commenced a run from the quarter pole, very, very wide out. In fact, I heard one punter remark there were shades of Viandacross in the gallops from back in the day. I'll roll the footage here, Nick, and can you just talk us through the query that was issued to Hayden and his explanation?
Yes, Cody, as you've alluded to, Hayden Gray, driver of Changing Code, was questioned regarding his tactics adopted on the horse from a second row draw, and as to whether that horse could have been put into the race sooner than eventuated. The instructions issued by Mr Matthew Craven, trainer of Changing Code, were to drive the horse with 1 run. Mr Gray attempted to start improving out 3 wide near the 1,000 metres. However, the tempo of the race quickened noticeably during that quarter, which was recorded in 28.9 seconds. Mr Gray then explained that runners forward of him in a 3-wide position took some time to improve, and then failed to improve significantly into the race thereafter, resulting in Mr Gray having to improve significantly wide around that final turn, where Changing Code made good ground in quick closing sectionals. But stewards acknowledged the previous racing pattern of Changing Code, and also that the horse had been driven in a similar manner with success in the past.
Yeah, he's certainly got a lethal finish, and we saw him attack the line, so punters will no doubt have noted that. And just to finish, Nick, one more question from a viewer, Ben Riley, so thanks for sending this one in, Ben. He asks about whether a trainer with 3 runners engaged in the one race needs to declare the tactics on all of those, and I guess whether that information is then obviously relayed to the industry.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for your question, Ben. The change of tactics policy that HRV have requires stewards to question any trainer that has 3 or more runners in the one race, so that the trainer is interviewed prior to the event. If there's any alteration from those horses' respective racing patterns, that information is then declared publicly. If there's no alteration, obviously that remains with the stewards and the participants to ensure that they're driven consistently in accordance with their pattern.
Okay, so if you're doing the form and you see 3 runners in the race from the same stable and you've seen nothing on the notifications, it's fair to assume they're all going to be driven in a consistent manner. That's the aim of the trainer.
Exactly right, and that's the purpose of it, is to get clarification off the trainer to ensure with that many runners in the same race from the same stable, that the clarification is that the horse will otherwise be driven in accordance with its normal pattern. If there is any alteration, then it is declared publicly.
Sure. Thanks again, Ben, for sending that in, and that just about wraps us up. I think we've gone probably slightly over time, but any questions, ask the stewards at hrv.org.au. We're always happy to take your feedback. Nick, thanks for coming in once again.
Thanks, Cody.